Now, most people have heard of the shadow. Most people have heard of this concept, but very few people, well, I won't say very few people, but not a lot of people know about it in depth. They don't know what it is. They don't know entirely what it is. And a lot of people don't know how to spot it and understand it, how it shows up in real life. Now, it's usually talked about as something hidden, but also a darker side of your nature, something that you need to tame, that is a product of trauma. And that's not really the full picture, all right? Because the reality is you're actually living out this side of you. You just don't recognize it as you. So you'll see the same behavior clearly in other people while at the same time insisting it's not you. So that's where, and so that's where I want to start. That causes you all sorts of problems will cause all sorts of problems in your life because you're not seeing both sides of your nature. And you'll spend a lot of time, mental energy, um, and internal energy trying to repress and keep one side of yourself from coming up to the surface. It takes a lot of energy from you, and that can undermine a lot of relationships. It can undermine your attempts to get work. There's a lot of problems that come from splitting yourself in two. So we'll start with the original idea. Now, this is from Carl Jung. So we'll go back to where this idea, this concept actually started. So Jung defined the shadow as the parts that you um, have no wish to be, which is one of his very many quotes. The parts that you have no wish to be. Now, those are the traits that you reject, suppress, traits that you don't identify with. Okay, so that's not me. Right? He didn't say it was evil. He said it was disowned. That's what Carl Jung was saying. There was parts of you that were disowned that you thought were, what's the word I'm looking for? Undesirable, let's call it. But he also mentioned that within that contained potential. He called that the golden shadow. Okay. So what you reject often holds something that you haven't yet owned. That's what it is. But here's the key point that most people miss. It's that Jung didn't ever say to eliminate this part of yourself. He said to bring it into awareness. So from the beginning, the shadow was never actually a problem. When he came up with the concept of the shadow, it was never a problem. It was just a side of you that you refused to see, a part of you that was outside of your awareness, a part of you that was being suppressed. That's why you have the light of awareness, and then you have the part you don't see. That's why you have light that you can see and a shadow that you don't. So this has become mixed up in just common circles as a negative aspect of you. Okay, so you can start to see how easily that can be misinterpreted. So today, the common misconception is that today, most shadow work teaches that shadow is trauma, childhood wounds, or damage, and that the solution is to go back, recognize what's taken place, and then try to act differently in spite of your feelings when they come up. So it's like, oh, that's just my shadow showing its head, and I will act in spite of that in something that's in the opposite way. My shadow is telling me to stop. It's because of that time when dad was yelling at me that I've internalized this. I can't speak up, so now I have to act in the opposite way of what I'm feeling internally. Does that make sense to everyone? So that can feel useful, but it doesn't challenge the underlying story from where it came. So it keeps alive the idea that you were at the effect of what happened. It's very easy to slip into the idea and the position that you were a victim of what took place when this side of you was developed or rejected, so to speak. And that part of you is a problem as a result. That part of you is a problem in your life as a result. So they will emphasize the challenges that apparently come from this side of you, but they won't look at what you're actually getting out of doing the action. Because you wouldn't continue to do it if you didn't derive some kind of benefit from it. So already there, you can see where a split is coming in. You can see where the limitations are on the way it's like perceived and worked with. So the real cause of the shadow, the genesis of the shadow, if it's not trauma, where does it come from? What actually creates it? And it's much simpler than people think. Throughout your life, you've been taught one-sided ideals. Now, how many of you guys can remember your parents saying, be nice to your brother or your sister, don't be mean? Be generous to people, don't be selfish. It's better to give than it is to take. Be calm. Stop being angry. You've got to be calm. Calm down. Stop being angry. Everything, all these one-sided niceties, all these one-sided aspects. Praised for one side, and the other side is told that it's less than. Now that sounds harmless, and I'm not here blaming parents because it's not just parents. Starts off with parents, but then it could potentially go into preachers. It goes into your teachers and social groups. There's cultural ideas around this. You have all these different influences throughout your development that are telling you to live a one-sided existence, to be one side and not the other. Never be aggressive. Always be kind. Never cruel. Okay, so it feels harmless, but it creates an impossible one-sided human ideal as a moral standard inside your mind. It's like being told to breathe in and never breathe out. That breathing in is good. Get this oxygen, never breathe out because that's bad. So you can't do one without the other. Remember, your mind even perceives on a spectrum. Behavior exists on a spectrum, and your mind perceives in contrast. You can't see one thing and recognize it without being aware of its opposite. So what happens is you get taught all these one-sided ideals. You indoctrinate all of these one-sided ideals from all these different influences as you develop. And what you start doing is you compare yourself to these ideals. And inevitably, when the other side comes out, your nature, which is natural and normal, you don't just notice it, you judge it. So if you're told be generous, never selfish, and it's better to give than to receive, and everything like that, the moment you start prioritizing yourself, you're going to have a conflict and you start judging yourself for it. If you've been told to be nice all the time, the second that you perceive yourself as being mean, you'll start judging it. That's not what I should be. I shouldn't be like that. That's the moment you've divided yourself. Okay, so the traits that you show that match the ideal, you have a pride about. The traits that you hide that don't match the ideal, and so those are the ones that you have a shame about. But you don't stop doing the behaviors. What actually happens is you just stop identifying with them. So that's called a dissociation. So, for example, it's if I am saying I never yell at anyone. I've never yelled at anyone in my entire life. Okay. What I've done is I've been taught some ideal that I should never yell and always speak with an even voice. And if I said that to you guys, I've never once raised my voice at anybody ever in my life for 1 second. Would any of you guys believe that? Please, great. I want to get plenty of feedback right now. Tell me that I'm full of shit because if anyone ever says that to you, they're full of shit. Okay.
So you're full of shit.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Katrina. So what I would be doing in that moment, whenever somebody says this absolute that I never do that, I've never done that, blah 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 blah, what they're doing is they are dissociated from the moments when they have done that. So they can't. It's not in their awareness. It's a dissociation. So now you've got traits that you accept about yourself, you have a pride about. So you're conscious of what you have a pride about. That I speak with a calm voice, but I've got the trait that I reject and I have a shame about the times when I've raised my voice, that becomes unconscious. That goes into my shadow. They're both still running, I'm just aware of one and unaware of the other. Is that making sense to everyone? You guys following along?
Mhm.
So the
No, I'm a little bit lost.
so the shadow is a side of you that you reject.
Yeah.
What's okay? So the shadow is call that the dark side because it's just the shadow that you're unaware of. It's in the dark. What you're aware of, and that's usually contains shame. It's things that you're dissociating from. You're not associating. It's not me, and you're rejecting and suppressing. What you're
May
conscious
I?
of is the
Sorry.
opposite. You're conscious of the things that you're conscious of the things that you have a pride about, that you accept as part of you and everything like that. Now, you've got things that you don't like about yourself, but there's not like and dislike, but there's the things that you have a deep shame about. I would never do that. I would not do this. I've never done that in my entire life. I've never done any of these different things. That's what you're unconscious of. That's your shadow. Now, a lot of people, a lot of us are taught that that's comes from trauma. It's a trauma response that we've shut down part of ourselves because mum and dad didn't yet let me speak up or anything like that. But that's not the full picture. What it is much simpler that we've learned throughout our life. We've been given punishment and reward, that part of our nature is good and part of it is bad. And we stack layers on that from all the different influences. And so we end up with a side, a complete side of ourselves that we dissociate from, that we don't want to own. And what will happen is when we have that, we see it out in the world, but we don't see it in ourselves. We've only got half the reflection. Does that make sense? So you've still got these, both sides are always running. You're just aware of one and unaware of the other. The biggest thing that blocks anybody from a breakthrough in session is that they want to hold on to their pride and they don't want to see the other side of any event. They want to be right. They want to hold on to a pride. They want to keep themselves elevated. Pride is what maintains resentment. So I'll give you guys an example. I had a client, and I've mentioned her before previously, this story, but I'll go into a bit more depth. She's getting prepared to get married. She's just about to get married. And she has a charge on cheating. Her previous partner had done an infidelity, and she's got a hair trigger response to that. She yells at her friends if she sees it. She was actually judging her brother as well when he revealed to her that he had done an infidelity recently. So she's really highly charged on that, on what she perceives as infidelity. And she's getting closer to the date that she's going to get married, and she starts uh, sabotaging, undermining the relationship. She's having more arguments with the guy. She's pushing it. She's having a shutdown response. She's having feelings and sensations that she needs to get out of the relationship and exit. I don't really want this, that, and the other. And it's all of these unresolved charges from her previous relationship. So it was her old baggage. Now, when she started working with me, um, she didn't, and I was trying to get her to be able to see where she had done the same thing. We had to break down what she was actually charged about because she called it cheating, but it was all these actions. So we had to go, what were the actions that she was actually charged about? And we had to try and find where she had done the same thing. Now, before we started talking, she's getting a lot of resistance. At the start, when we start talking, she's resisting a lot of this. But once the relationship starts to get into a lot of turmoil and her partner's about to leave her, that's when she saw more drawback to holding on to that story than she saw than benefits. She's like going, this story is actually costing me. If I don't work on this and do something, it's costing me. So that's when she became open. At the start, she's fighting me. but then she becomes open when she can see she's about to lose a relationship. Now, I wasn't judging her, and I shared my own stories. I shared a few different things, so she knows she wasn't being judged, so she felt a bit safer to open up. Once she had a motive to change, and she felt safe to open up, that's when the answers started to come, and that's when she humbled herself. Where did she do everything she judged with her ex? She flirted with others. She touched other men. She wanted other men to touch her. She wanted to be with other men. She was fantasizing about other men. She even fantasized about other men when she was with him. She was openly flirting and being touchy and all this kind of stuff in front of him with other men. She was completely this. None of this was in her awareness until were asking the question where she had done all the very specific things that she was judging in him. Until finally she could admit where she had done the same thing. All of that, I've never, because she swore black and blue, I've never done an infidelity. I haven't done what he's done. That was all in her shadow. So you guys understand? She's literally doing and has done the action, but she's unaware of it. This is what she's aware of. This is what she's doing. She's still doing it. She's unaware of it. That was part of her shadow. She didn't want to admit it because she had a shame about it. She dissociated from the fact that she had flirted with other men, touched other men, wanted other men, done all these other things while she was with that guy. And instead, she was projecting her judgment that she really has on herself onto everyone else in the world. She's judging her brother. She's judging her friend. She's judging the other guy. But she was blind where she had done the same thing. So she's constantly walking around triggered. And on the opposite end of that, she made this big show of her own loyalty, traits that she was proud of. So she's got this story in her head that she's never done anything, that this guy's horrible, and she's misloyal all of a sudden. Okay. Once we balanced it, she could see where she'd done it, the judgment stopped. She could see she could see how everything that she had done, she had done in her own way, in her own form as well, up until the point where she could see where she's actually done a full infidelity sexually, every form that you can think of with another person, just completely out of her awareness. So that was in her shadow. Is everyone following along? Does that make sense to everyone? She's not horrible or bad. She's not horrible or bad. And if I challenge you guys to look and to find, and I keep pushing you, that's why. Okay. As soon as the judgment stops, whew, you could feel the weight lift out of her, and she's just started bawling her eyes out. But these were like inspired tears. She's just a cathartic tears, like going, holy smokes, I've really done this. So just as a quick recap, okay, you're not one-sided, even though you've been taught to be one-sided. You get a lot of messaging from media, from everywhere, from culture, from people, everything. You've been taught to be one-sided. You're not. You never will be. Okay. The shadow isn't just a trauma response. It's created by self-judgment, internalized judgments. And you still act out the traits that you reject. You're just unaware of them. So the split isn't actually real. It's all perceptual. Okay. So if you guys open up, if any of you guys have got the little workbook that I've put in the Discord, it's handy just to have it next to you, because this is just so you can read along. So there's no separate shadow self. There's no separate shadow self. I want you to get that. There's this part that you're aware and part you're unaware. There isn't a dark version of you. It's all behavior that you own and that you don't. The shadow isn't another part of you. It's just the part that you won't admit. Now, so question one from that little workbook that's what question one addresses. Where do you do the same thing so that you can own what you see in other people? This is why when you get triggered by other people, they can be your teachers because they're your mirror. And so at a certain point, once you drop the judgment, you can have a sense of gratitude that they've reflected something in you so that you can grow. So you no longer have that trigger that was always bubbling under the surface. Okay, so that's the first bit. There is no separate shadow self. It's all you. You already have all traits. Broken record at this stage. Have any of you guys ever met a one-sided person? If you look on media, I don't think so, Katrina. People might show you one side, but I assure you, if you ask somebody else, they've got that side. Ask their ex-partner if they've got another side. I'm sure they'll tell you about the other side that we don't see. Everyone's ex always has the other side. Okay. You already have all traits, every one of us. Okay. We're all kind and cruel. We're all confident and uncertain. We're all generous and self-focused. Behavior exists on a spectrum, and you're capable of all of it. It depends on the context and your values. Different in situations, different environments are going to bring out different aspects of you, and you need them all. Fabrice, you needed the ability to be angry and mean to Jared when he needed to try and wake him up when he was hurting himself and his relationship. You needed that, and so did he. Okay, we all need to be able to show both sides. It's just about the context in which we use everything. So this is another reason why in that question on your little workbook is why I get you to also ask, do it multiple times, answer it multiple times, go to another moment, go to another moment, go to another moment, so you can start to get more context of where you do the thing that you're judging in someone else. Go to another moment, go to another moment, and you'll see that it comes out in different contexts. And when you answer the question, who was there? When you keep writing down the names of the people that actually saw that trait, it means that other people actually see that trait in you. So again, Fabrice, when you were looking up when you were doing the opposite in our last session, where you were looking up at Pink about her ability to talk openly about and share about herself and all this kind of stuff, and you were admiring that. And once you started to own that, it leveled the playing field a little bit. But then I was saying, did people witness it? Did people witness it? Who saw it? Who saw it? All those other people saw that trait in you. So you weren't actually owning it to the same degree that you saw in Pink. It's the same mechanism, just in the opposite. So your shadow in that moment was really owning the fact that you share openly with groups of people in a vulnerable way, and it's an authentic expression. You have these moments of authentic expression. You weren't owning it. That was in your shadow in that moment. You dissociated from that aspect of yourself. You're focused on the opposite. So you're projecting outwardly an admiration onto Pink. So you exaggerated how much she was actually sharing and minimized yourself by the comparison. It happens in both ways, both directions. Okay, so that's why that question, who saw it in you? Because it's not just you, other people actually see it. That all of this really humbles you, because we get off our high horse thinking that we don't have these things, and we just see it in ourselves and I go, oh, and it calms things down. And once you look at people eye to eye instead of looking down on them with your projection, your communication shifts. There's a lot of benefit to being able to identify your shadow, but not demonize it, and not treat it as a part of you that's broken that needs fixing. It doesn't. It just needs to be understood. Okay, so every behavior, the next thing to understand here is you've got all traits, but that every behavior serves. I mean, I've alluded to that now, but every behavior has serves. So nothing in you is random. Every behavior continues because in the moment that you use it, you perceive more benefit than drawback in the moment. Okay, so I'll draw this up on a diagram, get my little diagrams. Uh, okay, let's see. Come on. And then okay. It's okay. It's working. You guys are seeing that? Yes? You see? Okay, cool. All right. So here we have the moment. Right. And we're going to look at continue the example of that client. All right. So she's already owned where she at this point, she's already owned that she has done all these infidelity, all these things that she's labeled infidelity. She's broken it down. She's done everything that she's labeled infidelity. She owns it. Okay. Now, what came up for her is she had a shame, a bit of shame and a bit of guilt. Now, if I, what we're looking at here is what were the benefits of her doing what she did. Okay. Now, if I just stick with the label of cheating, okay, none of those, that doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me what she did. It also doesn't connect to the context of when it took place, anything about what's going on in her life in that moment. So saying to her, what's the benefit of cheating on this guy in the general sense isn't going to create what people have a hard time um, looking into. So when I say, when you can say, what's the benefit of infidelity, people are going to look at you funny. You need to go into the moment that these things took place. So when we got to the moment when the biggest moment that really made everything pop for her was when she realized that she actually slept with somebody, not her partner from a previous relationship, that she still carried judgment, had a trigger on. So I went into the moment and she had a shame about what it had caused her. So go into the moment. This is the moment. And she saw, okay, this is the positives, these are negatives. Okay, so she's seeing 10 negatives, 0 positives out of her doing that. Now, that created a split, and she's blind. On the surface level, she's blind to this. She's blind to where she's done it. Or she's actually, more accurately, she's dissociated from the moment. She's dissociated from this moment, and so she's blind to the moment. She's blocked it out. But now that's in her awareness, this is why. So we need to go into the moment and say, what's the context? What's going on in her life in that moment? Well, in her life in that moment, she was doing a lot of drugs, and she had dropped out of school, doing a lot of drugs. She was breaking into houses, and um, she had this boyfriend, and that's what all of his mates. He was a drug dealer, and she was going down a certain direction. Okay, so that's the context of what's going on. So one of the benefits to her, so we go into the moment. What was the benefit to her in the moment that she hooked up with that guy? That she chose to hook up with someone not her partner. She felt disconnected she disconnected. In that moment, she felt like she had some space, disconnection from the partner that she was with. Okay, so, and I say, all right, great. So how is that a benefit to you? How was it a benefit to disconnect from him? Because, well, I had been thinking about leaving him, but I didn't have the courage. Okay, so that disconnection gave her a reason to leave. Great. So, so did you feel more inclined to leave? She goes, yeah, I felt like I could get out of there because I could tell him I had an excuse. Great. And what was the benefit of having an excuse? She's like going, well, he didn't want to be with me afterwards either. So whilst there was some friction, he was saying that there was no way back for her either. So right now, we've just got three benefits that are directly connected to the moment that are associated to the context in which it took place. Does that make sense to you? So all of a sudden now that ratio is three benefits, seven, getting better. So she's softening. All right, great. What was it? What was another benefit to hooking up with that guy in that moment? And she's like going, well, I was to go and do that, to go and be with that guy. I skipped out on going to this party and a bunch of people got arrested and all this kind of stuff. And so there's a big drama around this party. So I missed out on going on that. Brilliant. And what was the benefit of that? She goes, well, one person got arrested, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't have to deal with that drama. Beautiful. There's another benefit. So now she's got five and five. Now it's more 50-50. It's all associated to this moment. Once we kept stacking all these, she could see it. It got to 0-0. It got to perfectly even. What happened to this moment is that instead of being black or white, it changed to gray. It wasn't a black or white moment. Now it's changed to shades of gray. And she could see the ripple effect. She could see that those decisions led to other decisions, led to other decisions that changed the trajectory of her life. Once she could see that, she stopped judging herself. Once she got down to this 0-0, shame dissolved. And she stopped judging herself, which meant she got a bit of her self-worth back. She wasn't putting herself down, thinking that she had done something that caused herself more drawback than benefit in that moment. No more shame. Then we did the same thing. There was a little bit toward the guy that she'd actually done the infidelity with because she didn't want to actually be with him. And then we're able to see the benefits to him, dissolve some more. So benefits to this other guy, and then benefits to her ex. Once she had all of that, no more charge. She could see how the behavior that she had done, that she previously judged, had actually served herself in the moment. She was trying to pretend to be something she wasn't in order to maintain a relationship she was no longer inspired to be in. So it doesn't work if I just say, what's the benefit to cheating? I'll get the pushback and people won't understand it. But if I go into the moment and understand what's going through your mind in that moment, in that time, what your value structure is in that time, that's when you can extract real benefits. But you need to also know what the behavior is that you're actually charged about, because that is the one that you're judging. So in that workbook, that's what I want you to do. Go into the moment, get really associated to the moment, because when you can get into the moment, you link the benefits. You can logically see, your brain can see how this decision was connected to this result. And that's how you get out of it. And then you can say, and this result led to this, led to this. Great, go back to the moment. Boom, 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 back to the moment. Boom, boom, boom. That's what you do with the workbook. Okay, so it's the same. it's the same process. So it's just that dissolved a charge pretty quickly. So every behavior serves. You might not like admitting it, but if it didn't serve you, you wouldn't keep doing it. You hear me say that all the time. I'll keep banging it. I'll keep banging that drum, but it's true. So just look for it. Look for the benefit that you're deriving from it. So you stop judging yourself. Okay. So the solution isn't about healing the shadow, removing the traits of the shadow. It's about perceptual balance. When you see one side, you get an emotional charge, either pride or shame. But when you see both sides, the charge drops, it dissolves, and you stop reacting, you stop projecting, you stop fighting yourself, you stop trying to repress part of your nature, you stop judging that aspect within yourself. And now, instead of being unconsciously triggered, you can use the trait or behavior when it's needed without being run by it. That's when you can respond. You can consciously respond to things. Because that aspect of the shadow will naturally dissolve when your perception becomes whole. So, with that client, when she could see all the things at once, she had tears of gratitude. She could see, because she could see all of the lessons that she couldn't see before. She could own her own role. She didn't have to dissociate from it. And she no longer saw all of that as a negative event or part of her that she needed to get rid of or to fix. And it also gave her a more balanced view of men, women, and infidelity. She could start asking different questions. So that's when people trigger you, and it happens to me as well. When I get triggered badly, it's an invitation for me to do the work, but there's gold in getting into it. There's gold in there for you for your own development, for your own growth. So the shadow isn't something that's hidden from you. It's something that you don't see. And until you see it, you'll keep reacting to it in other people. And that's your work. Now, any questions? Has that brought up any questions, any thoughts from anybody?
Well, to me, it's like I'm wondering, do you, because I'm trying to apply like everything that I'm learning on a daily basis. Sometimes it turns into a headache because I try to overanalyze sometimes way too much. But like, do you have to do that like for any kind of situation, or because you're comfortable with, or you're judging it, or it's just something that you just apply when you feel really triggered and you try to understand your own trait about that?
Well, I mean, look, I pick and choose my battles because it's work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So no one has to do anything. You know, I'm not,
No, no.
and I'm not going to, and I'm not going to walk like say that I work on every single trigger that ever comes up within my own life. I don't have the time to do that. Um, I would never leave the house if I I'd be with my notebook all day, every day. Like I can't, that's not sustainable. I would say I would do this. It's wise to do the work with something that really, when you're really triggered by something, if there's a certain result that you're looking to achieve and you're having trouble getting there and you feel like there's things getting in your way, or that you keep getting triggered by certain things and it's having a certain kind of impact that you don't want on things like your relationships, your work, and everything like that, I would say those are the things to look into. Like I worked with a client who had trouble holding on to money. And so they had a whole bunch of different charges within themselves to where they didn't deserve it. And they also had a bunch of charges of when money had come, they had made certain investments that didn't pay off. And so part of them was actually having an aversion to having money. So that as soon as it came to him, they didn't spend it or give it all away and everything like that. Now, it's not a problem unless it's a problem. So when he came to me, he's like going, he goes, dude, I'm in a lot of debt. I need some help here. So we had to do a bit of work around his money. But he's also a little bit all over the place in his relationships as well. You know what I mean? So we could be doing relationship, but money was the priority for him. So we worked on that. So it's just kind of like, to me, I say just pick and choose your battles. It's also it's great to practice with like little things and see how quickly you can let it all go through. You're never going to be completely without any charges forever. You're always going to have things that you're
Mhm.
aware and unaware of. But you know, the more you become aware of, the less triggered you become. So you build up a resilience. So like with that lady, when she was able to really, really powerfully balance her ideas around infidelity, right? Not only did she stop judging herself, she stopped judging her brother. She was able to calm down. She no longer had a fear of that taking place in her relationship with her partner because we really went deep down that well. Instead, she's like going, I have a sense that I have the capacity to be able to handle that. I can ask different questions in the lead up. I can catch it before something gets to that. She just had all these different resources of awareness. So she could ask deeper questions. So now when she sees it, she doesn't have like this reaction inside her body whenever she saw it on TV or someone told her a story. She could just remain centered. And so that was what the power of it, you know? So yeah, look for the priority. That's what I would be doing. I'd be looking for the priority. What's the priority right now? And just work on the priority. Yeah. Sometimes it's fun
Thank
to have a
you.
project. My ex-girlfriend was a project.
No, I
That's
don't
it.
open project.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I treated the work, doing the work on her, that was a project. So I had to get a whole bunch of different charges. That took me a while. That was not an overnight job. Um, I was very charged up, but it was so worthwhile. So worthwhile. I don't have any ill feeling toward her whatsoever. Now, I did initially, but I wasn't so zen. I thought I was, but it didn't take a facilitator much poking to bring out a charge from me. I was like, ah, shit. Okay, there's plenty of work to do.
I share the feeling for sure.
Uh, but just keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the way that when you see online coaches and therapists and things like that, listen to the way they describe things, whether or not they are talking about bringing you resources to moments, or whether they're just getting you to do a exercise of reflection that gets you to go and think about these moments and just write about them. What did you what did you have to suppress in yourself? Who told you that you weren't allowed to do this? Who humiliated you? Who did this? Who did that? It's very externally focused. I've downloaded a lot of shadow workbooks from people. It's a lot of this happened to me sort of thing. And so it's like going, they did that to me. This is a part of you. Now, when you get that impulse, just do the opposite. When you want to close down, open up. So it's kind of like exposure therapy is is the common way of dealing with this. And also they like channel it into certain activities. And okay, that stuff is fine. These these ways of dealing with it, that's fine. If it works for you, go for it. But if it doesn't do anything for the underlying perception, well, you're working at the level of effect. You're not actually addressing the cause. So just be aware of that. People, with the way that they describe these things, if they can't go in there and tell you about how it might be serving. So this lady whose shadow was infidelity couldn't see how when she'd done it, it actually served her and other people. She was only aware of the other side. everything you can find a way of bringing out the other side in every single behavior, but you won't do it powerfully in the general. You need to get into the moment. Alyssa, when we did that stuff with you, it was all about the moment. People on the surface level could judge you for any of your actions. You judged you for your actions on the surface. But when we got into the minute moment and you could see what your motive was in the moment, you could see some of the other side. Correct? Or no, am I just imagining? I think I can see your little head nodding. Okay. Okay, there's a smile and a nod. I'm gonna take that as a yes. I realize that it's early for you, so thank you for even showing up. I was looking at the times in Australia. The clocks have gone back. It's like it's 6 a.m. in New South Wales now, and I'm like, oh, it's 11 o'clock with Fabrice. Geez, you all do well to show up. All right. Does anybody have any more questions? All right. Well, thank you guys for coming along. Thank you guys for sitting through. I've got the little workbook there. Take a look. It's a workbook to do it on one side of the equation. We're just focusing on things that you might be rejecting in the dark sense. But as I said to you before, Fabrice, you can also do it on the opposite. It works on the opposite side. If you admire somebody, you're just not seeing it in you. So it can work on either side. Have a go. Play around with that little workbook. Let me know. Give me some feedback if it helps to have everything written out in front of you. But until next time, guys, thank you. I'll speak to you all soon.